Hi, my name's Sonjia and this is my channel, See It Then, See It Now. Today's video is a little bit different in that the See It Now footage is not that dissimilar to the See It Then footage. When I set out to do this guest bedroom, I was very mindful that I wanted every piece of furniture to be either what I already had or bought in from the charity shop. I didn't want to go out buying new. I wanted to upcycle everything. So the bed that I already had, there was nothing wrong with it other than it was chocolate brown, and chocolate brown is just not going to go with the way that the room's looking. So I needed to change that. My options were to paint it or recover it. I decided to recover it. I'm not an upholsterer, I'm not an expert. This is definitely this is how I did it video, not this is how to do it video. But the end result, it looks absolutely fine. You wouldn't think a novice like me had done it. It looks very professional. It looks perfectly. It's fine. It's perfect. Before we jump into the video, if you're not yet subscribed, then do please consider subscribing. It does help my channel to grow and it's totally free. Let's take a look. Okay, here we go. I've got the bed on its end. I'm really nervous about this, I'm not gonna lie. Having said that, I've just lifted it up and look, this is where it's been covered and it's just got a big piece of fabric just flapping about inside the drawer. So I'm going to give it my best shot. I'm sure I can do something neater than that. I'm sure it'll be fine. Worst case scenario, I do have an upholsterer that can help me, but I'm hoping I'm not going to need to ask for help. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to do this. So I'm going to start by getting these legs off because they're going to have to be painted anyway. And then I think I'll try taking this, because it looks like the fabric's underneath there, so this is going to need to come off. And I'm going to try and take the staples out without hurting myself and ending up needing casualty. So I'll start by getting these legs off, I think. Once I had the legs off, I started removing the staples from the white cover at the bottom of the bed. This sounds straightforward enough, but I didn't want to damage anything, so progress was a little bit on the slow side. I now could get access to the fabric. I started removing it from the drawer section. Once I got a start on this, it was easier because I could get behind the material and just prise it all up. So we've ripped it in the corner there. I thought I'd be taking it off and then bringing it back down. Interesting. This is my fabric. If I go over the chocolate brown, not there, is it going to show through? And I think the answer is big fat no. It's definitely not going to show the difference, which means that in theory, because the only reason I need to take the fabric off is because of the drawer. So I'm thinking that I could, if I do a neat cut across there, this fabric can stay put because I can go over the top of it with the name. If I cut along that edge, remove that, I think that's all I'm going to have to do. I don't think I need to remove all this. I actually think that will work. And I don't need to take it all off. Okay, I think that's what I'm going to do. So I originally thought that I was going to have to take all of this off. I didn't really know because I was making it up as I go along, as I do so well. regular way. Supervisor's coughing in the background there. So I needed to take, the problem is that if I was to just cover this as it is, the drawers are not going to fit in, because by the time I've put the fabric on over the top of this fabric, it's going to be too thick for the drawers to fit in the holes. So I definitely needed to take it out within this drawer section. But now that I've got it off and had a look at it, I don't think I actually need to remove all this fabric. I think that I can go over the top with my fabric and then just take my fabric down into this area here. So I've cut myself a nice trim, and I'm just going to fold this so it's level with the edge of where the drawers are going to come to, and I'm just going to stick a few staples in just to keep it in place and tidy it up so that when I go over the top with my fabric, it's just going to be nice and tidy and not get in the way. So I'm just going to stand up here so I'm above it a bit better. I'm just going to staple, just pop a few staples in. With one side tidied up, I now needed to repeat the same on the other side of the bed. I now had the first half of the bed ready for material, so I decided to cut out the pieces of fabric I needed to cover the bed. When you ran your hand over this fabric, it was smooth in one direction and rough in the other. I made sure to cut the fabric so that all the pieces would run smooth from the top of the base to the bottom once the fabric was in place. I gave myself about 2 to 3 inches of extra material on each side just because I was new to this and I wanted to make sure that I had enough. I know that I was being uber cautious, but at this point I was more concerned about how I was going to get this fabric on, and the last thing I wanted to be worrying about was whether I'd cut my pieces of fabric large enough. Then it was time for me to attach the first piece of fabric. I changed the way that I did these after the first piece. I was, after all, making this up as I go, and I needed to find the best way for me to attach these pieces. I will go into detail on how I ended up doing it, but I don't really want to go into how I bodged it on the first one. So bear with me and I will come back to how I attach the pieces. To attach the long piece of fabric that was going to run along the bottom of the bed, I placed the fabric onto the bed, making sure it was right side up, that the smooth side ran from the top to bottom, and that I had the same amount of material overhanging at each side. I popped a few staples in at the top and bottom. I wasn't sure if I should have secured it fully all the way along at this point, but my thought process was, if I messed up on the corners, I didn't want to have like 100 staples to remove. So I just put a few in, just enough to secure it until I'd sorted the corners out, and then I intended to go back and put lots of staples in all the way along the top and the bottom. As it turned out, the corners went together perfectly fine, no problems at all. So once I had those corners all in place, I went along and popped that 100 staples in, just popping them all the way along the top and all the way along the bottom, making sure that my fabric was straight and nice and tight. Watching this play through, it might have been more than 100 staples looking at it. Once I had the fabric all in place, I did then go back and reattach that white cover that covers the bottom of the base. The bottom half of the bed is now covered, so it's on with doing exactly the same with the top half of the bed. I say exactly the same, I'm not going to bother taking the fabric around the back of the bed where the headboard will be because I don't see the point. I could do, but there's no need. It's against the wall, so I'm just going to do the corners like I've done in the middle. So I've got the 4 corners to do, these top bits, and the drawers still need recovering as well. I have actually, on the base, I did do this, recover this part. Unfortunately my video recorder didn't record it. My memory card was full, so it stopped recording but didn't tell me, so I didn't get that on camera, but luckily I've got it to do on these two, so I can show you on when I do these two. So first job is to get these little metal strips off and get all this fabric out of the drawer area without stabbing myself with the stapler remover. Just with regards to removing this fabric, I should have got a ladder and not had my arms working this high up. I hurt my right shoulder doing this, and it's taken weeks to get it somewhere near. It's still not 100%, but at one point I couldn't even lift my arm to shoulder height. It made getting dressed and washing my hair very interesting. It did also stop me from being able to continue working on this for a few weeks because I was in that much pain. So if you choose to do it, please get a ladder. Okay, that's me done for tonight. I am absolutely shattered. My arms are hurting, my wrists are hurting, but we're getting there. So, Jesus, I'm so tired, so tired. Okay, so I'm just going to staple these bits down like I did at the other side, and then tomorrow we can get this half of the bed covered with the new fabric. So I've got the 4 corners to do, and then these 2 top edges. Bit to go yet, but it is getting there. I am just so tired though now. I just really need to go get showered and get in bed. Definitely done. Yeah, that's definitely different. So that's smooth, rough. This is the top. That's the bottom, so it's that way around it needs to go. There we go. So the reason I've done this is just so we've got a nice neat edge along here, so I've just done it backwards. And I haven't got anything to staple in here, there's no wood underneath, so if I staple through, the staples are going to show, so which I found out the hard way on the other half of the bed. I've gone through with loads of staples and I didn't realise, so I don't want to continue doing that, so I'm not stapling there, so I'm just going to pop a bit of fabric glue on that section. So this bit is not going to show because I'm going to come down with a piece of fabric over here, so I can get this nice and straight, make sure I've got this right, and then I can just secure this here. And it doesn't matter if there's a staple here because it's not going to show. Okay, So what I'm going to do now is I need to cut this bit. So I need it to cut so it comes to the corner. So I'm just going to put it at a very slight angle just to the corner there, so that that can be folded under. And now what I need to do is tip it completely over so we can get rid of this flap. So let's tip it over and do that next. I lost count how many times I flipped this bed one way or the other during this project. I felt like I flipped it round 100 times. It's a good job it wasn't very heavy. To secure the flap, I pulled the fabric tight and secured along the edge with staples. I cut the fabric around the runner of the drawer. Because the staple gun did not get the staples right up to the corner of the wood, I secured the fabric into the corners using fabric glue, just to make sure I had a nice neat edge. Then I just stapled the extra fabric neatly down inside the frame. Now with the bed back the right way up, I secured the corners. I just pulled the fabric tight and stapled along the edge until I had the fabric secure and neat, folding the fabric and stapling through the folds if needed. The hardest part was keeping it tight while I getting the gun in place. Once I had it all secure, I removed the excess fabric so that the bit where the leg is going to screw into was clear, and then I stapled the bit of white under fabric back in place. The top corner was pretty much the same thing, only I didn't have to mess about where the leg would be. The bed had rounded corners at the top and bottom, but right angle corners in the middle. When it came to the right angle corners, it was pretty much the same procedure. I did exactly the same for most of it, but when I got to securing the corners, as you can see, I needed to put bigger folds in the fabric just to make sure that I got them neat and secure. But it was basically the same thing. I pulled the fabric tight, put folds in where needed, and just folded it all over till I got a nice neat edge. Cut off the excess fabric and then secured the bit of white underneath fabric back in place. Okay, so I need to cover this front bit. I've removed as much of this excess fabric as possible. This bit at the top I'll be sorting out later. So I've got my fabric, this is the back and this is the front. It's smooth going down that way, it's rough going that way, so this is definitely top, this is bottom. So I'm just going to pop it on. So I've got about the same over on each side. And then I'm going to fold this in so we've got a nice neat seam, line it up with the edge of the drawer where the drawer comes up like that. I'm just going to grab a staple in here. And line it up nice and neat. And of course, I don't know if this is the correct way to do this. This is just how I'm doing it. I secured all the way down the edge with the staples. What I now need to do is turn the bed upside down and go on to pull this tight and staple it all under there. But rather than turning the bed upside down to do that, to then turn it back up, to do the same on the other side, to then turn it back over, I'm just going to put this top bit on the other side so that when I turn it over I can do both sides at once. I'm going to use my brain for once. Now with the bed upside down, I pulled all the fabric tight and secured it on the inside of the bed using the staple gun. I started at one side and just worked my way across, making sure that I had it tight and neat and straight all the way along. So what I've decided to do is to just tidy this up. The mattress is going to be on top of it. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. This bed is only just for me. It's not like I'm selling it or anything. So, but I've decided just to tidy it up. So I've just got some scrap fabric here, and I'm just going to pin this along the edge just to give me a nice tidy finish rather than having these flaps of fabric. It is a little bit thick in these corners, so I'm just going to cut some of this away just so that I've got less bulk along that corner. But I don't, do I need to, once this is down, do I need to do anything with the other bit? See, what would have been ideal would have been to just fold this edge over and staple it, but there's nothing to staple to here. It's just board, there's no wood, so all the staples will be sticking through underneath. So I need to do it along this edge. Make sure I've got an overhang at both sides, which I have. I stapled all the way along one side, and then I went and stapled along the opposite side, making sure I had my fabric nice and tight. I then did the third side and sorted the corners at that side, and then I went and did the fourth side and neatened up the corners. It was quite an easy task. It wasn't difficult at all, and I think it did tidy it up quite nicely.
I want to see Mama.
You want to see? Are you ready for the big bang? Do you want to know what I've been banging?
No.
No, okay, I'll wait. Now all I need to do is do exactly the same thing on the other half of the bed. But then, once I've done that, the bed base is complete and I've just got 2 drawers left to do. I'm going to go spend a little bit of time with my granddaughter and then I'm going to carry on. Removing the fabric from the drawers was considerably easier than removing the fabric from the bed. It did, once I got started, I could just prise it all off and it came off quite easily. These little strips that I'm taking off there, I do reuse them. I use them again, you'll see when I come to put the new fabric on. Okay, so I just need to get my head around this. So this is the fabric's running this way, so this is the front of my drawer. And that's going to be the top, and then when the drawer's open it's going to be like that. So I need to push that bit inside there because I'm going to attach this front edge here, and then that's going to fold down over the drawer. Okay, so that's the right way around for it to be. This is the strip that I just mentioned. I lined up the fabric and the strip along the top edge of the drawer and I stapled through both the strip and the fabric. And basically what this does is gives a nice neat edge so that when the fabric folds over, it's the strip has helped keep the fabric nice and neat all the way along, and you get a nice clean seam. I reused the padding that was under the fabric that I'd just removed, and I placed it over the front of the drawer, folded the fabric over, and pulling it tight, I secured it all along the bottom edge of the drawer. The corners of these drawers were the hardest part to get neat out of the entire bed. Out of the entire bed, these corners were the hardest bit to do. The issue was that I didn't want to have too many folds on the edge of the drawer, just in case the folds of the fabric made it too thick and then the drawer would be too big to fit back in the bed flush. And it's not the clearest bit of video footage, I know, but I'm going to try and explain what I did. I then pulled the fabric from the front of the drawer tight around and secured that on the back of the front of the drawer too. I then just neatened up the edge and put some staples all the way down the side of the drawer. I cut off some of the excess material, and then I folded from the top edge of the drawer down the side edge of the drawer, and this created a flap, and I secured this flap on the back of the drawer front so that the fold would be on the back of the drawer front. I also had to just cut around the drawer runner and just tidy up around the drawer runner as well. So let's have a reminder and see it then. And let's see it now. So there we have it. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I'm quite proud of myself really that I managed to do it. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments and hit that like button. I didn't recover the headboard. I decided to go down a different route with that. I've made my own from wood, resin, fabric, and it looks amazing. I can't wait to share that with you, and that will be the next video. If you don't want to miss out on that, then do make sure that you're subscribed. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I've also got bedside tables to upcycle that will be coming soon, bedside lamps and some bits of decor to go in there, and then I'm also going to be making some curtains. The room is really starting to come together now. I'm really excited. I can't wait for the end review. All that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you soon in the next one. Bye!